Hi, it's me, Holly from At Yarn's Length. Welcome back to week 2 of the Winter Stitch Sampler Knit Along. This week we'll be knitting the vine stripe stitch, but before we get into it today, this is my channel, At Yarn's Length, and we celebrate knitting, crocheting, crafting, traveling, and anything else I'm into on this channel. If you would like notifications anytime we publish something new, including the next Winter Stitch Sampler Knit Along, it's a mouthful, the Winter Stitch Sampler Knit Along pattern, go ahead and subscribe, and we'll see you next week. This is the week 2 stitch, which is the vine stripe stitch, and it has an overall look that reminds me a little bit of cables, but it doesn't actually require any cabling, which is one beautiful thing about this stitch if you're a beginner. These are the vines of the vine stripe stitch, and then the stripes come from these little garter stitch stripes here, 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 and here. We won't be dealing with as much curl as we did last week because we do have this garter stitch edge. The great thing about working the stitch is that the wrong side is all purls, so that gives you a chance to focus for a row, and then you can kind of turn off your brain, which is a really good balance. You can find the written instructions for this pattern on my website, which is linked below. I've also provided instructions there for the stitch if you want to work it as a standalone pattern so you can put it in another project. Let's get started. For this video, I'll be working a swatch. You can swatch along with me, or you can start working the panel directly. The standard vine stripe stitch pattern is worked in multiples of 15 stitches plus 2 over 12 rows, and I've modified it to fit this knit along. Both the original and the modified patterns are included in the written pattern. Our first step today is to cast on. If you're working the swatch, you only need to cast on 21 stitches. And if you're working the panel directly, you're going to cast on 66, just like last week. It's important to note that the 21 stitches that you're casting on for the swatch mimics our knit along and not the standalone stitch itself. I've already cast mine on, as you can see, and like last week, this pattern begins on the wrong side and with a purl row, which I've already worked. So pause the video, get your stitches cast on. You can use any method that's your favorite. Purl your first row, and then come back and unpause when you're ready. Okay, we're ready for row 2. Row 2 and all other rows are going to begin with a purl 4. This is the garter stitch stripe. It's going to be on either end. And you can slip your first stitch if you want to, or you can work your first stitch however you want to do it. I'm going to go ahead and slip it. 2, 3, 4. Next, we're going to knit 3. This begins the repeating part of the pattern. So we'll knit 3, yarn over and knit 1 twice. Almost missed that yarn over. Slip, slip, knit. Knit 3, knit 2 together, knit 1, and then you'll see that it says purl 2, but for your final repeat, purl 4. This is our final repeat because we're only doing this once because it's a swatch. So we're going to go ahead and purl 4. If you are working the panel, you're actually going to work those stitches 4 times before you get to the purl 4. So you're going to be purling twice. Okay, the next row and every other row is completely purled. So purl your next row and slip the first stitch if you choose to. Okay. So this is what you have after 3 rows. Not much going on there. All right, let's move to row 4. which again starts with a purl 4. We're going to knit 3 and yarn over twice. So as you can see, there's kind of a shared rhythm in this pattern from row to row. You'll see some of the, I don't want to say stitch patterns, but chunks of each row are repeated from row to row. Knit 1, slip, slip, knit, knit 1. Knit 2 together, knit 1, and end with a purl 4. Okay, because every other row is all purl, I'm not going to make you watch me purl those. I'll just show you this is what we have after row 4. I'm going to purl row 5 and I'll see you when I'm done. I've purled row 5. This is what it looks like so far. I'm going to go ahead and work row 6, which again starts with a purl 4. Oops. Oh goodness. Thought my yarn was in a different place. There we go. So I did slip my first stitch. That's 4. Knit 3 and yarn over. Knit 5 and yarn over. Knit 1, slip 1, knit 2, pass slip stitch over. So it's knit 1, slip 1, knit 2 together, and then pass the slipped stitch over. Woo! All right, knit 1 and then end with a purl 4. Tongue twister today. And of course for row 7, we're gonna purl all the stitches. Go ahead and purl those. I'll see you when you're done. I'm back. Let's start row 8 with a purl 4. Just like all the other rows. Next, knit 1, slip, slip, knit, knit 3, knit 2 together, knit 1 yarn over twice, so knit 1 yarn over, knit 1 yarn over, knit 3, and end this row with a purl 4. This is how it's starting to look. Go ahead and purl the next row. Okay, this is what it looks like after row 9. So let's get started on row 10. So let's move it that way. I think it's quieter when it's back this way. I'm going to start with purling the stitches. You may notice some of my stitches are seated kind of odd this time around. I actually messed up on row 10 and had to tink everything out to show you guys again. So okay, so we're going to start with a knit 1. Slip, slip, knit. Hold on, let me turn these stitches so the slip, slip, knit will work. Okay, slip, slip, knit. Okay, goodness. All right, knit 1, knit 2 together. Make sure, okay, those are turned the right way. Knit 1. So last time I skipped right over the knit 2 together and didn't have enough stitches. That was the issue. So knit 2 together, knit 1, and then yarn over, knit 3 twice. And yarn over 1, 2, 3, and that puts us right back at the end for our purl 4. Okay, only 2 rows left. You know what to do with row 11. Go ahead and purl that. Meet me back here for row 12. Okay, here's what it looks like after row 11. It's not looking like much, and I gotta be honest, with one repeat, it doesn't. It's not until you start to build on that that you get the pretty vine pattern. But let's look at row 12, see what that'll bring us. Again, we're gonna start with purling 4. Let me slip that first stitch. We're gonna knit 1. And then if there's a special stitch for this particular stitch pattern, I would say it's this one, the knit 3 together. I don't think we find it anywhere else in the knit along, just like a knit 2 together, except you're knitting 3. But with this yarn, which does, if you look really closely, you can see all the little plies. So it does have a tendency to split, especially with these needles, they'll just pop right through it. So do be careful with that. Knit 1, yarn over, knit 5. Yarn over, knit 3. And then purl 2 or end with purl 4. Okay, so this is it. This is what one repeat looks like. Like I said, it's not as impressive as the finished pattern or panel. It gets more beautiful as it's worked. If you are working the panel, you're going to work these 12 rows 8 times total. So you'll need to go 7 times more, and that'll be 96 rows. You'll work a final row, which is all purl on the wrong side, and then bind everything off. I would recommend waiting until you have a few panels to block, but you can definitely go ahead and weave in your ends. If you would like the written pattern, you can follow the link below. And that is it for today. Thanks so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this and that it helped you through the stitch. Give it a thumbs up if you liked it and consider subscribing, and I'll see you next week. Bye.